Well, hey, good morning, gamers. Welcome to the Blue Gamer Bluecast Morning Show. I'm your host, Adam Blue, 30 plus year video game enthusiast, where I follow the industry, gaming insights, what I've been playing, news, etc., etc. I'll do that every Monday through Friday around 8 a.m. Central. It is October 28th, 2024. We're getting to the end of spooky season. That went by really fast. Halloween is fast approaching. And I guess we have a few more days to talk about that until it happens. I have a costume in the works that someone's done. It's a Batman costume, and it looks sick. I can't believe I was able to get it to the degree that it's at. It's not like 100%. It's the Batman 89. Not 100% accurate, but you wouldn't notice maybe. Yeah, it's just really cool. I'm doing some stuff I've never done for the first time, like work with foam to make parts to the costume. Yeah, it's very cool. So yeah, let's get into everything. Well, first I saw Venom: The Last Dance this weekend. I saw it twice. Once I went with my brother, and what was really cool is this is something I was talking about recently when movie theaters used to give out stuff. If you see it in XD at Cinemark, the XD theater or whatever, they gave you this little Venom pin. I think that's cool. I love collecting stuff like that. The movie itself, played it safe in terms of doing what it needed to do to just kind of be a little more fun than interesting. In terms of comic book characters, so I saw it a second time. I saw it with my brother, and then on Sunday, my wife and youngest wanted to go, so I went with them. And I enjoy being at the movies. Lately, I've gone way more than I ever have. I think just having little kids, I went to movies less in general. They're a little older now, but then we had COVID that kind of delayed going back to the theaters often. So we've slowly, and I think, yeah, it was like a slow kind of where we weren't going all the time, maybe every few months, and now it's like we're going multiple times a week, and I love it. Anyway, so like I was fine because I really like sitting in an environment where I can completely focus. Because when I'm playing a video game, because I'm having to interact, I am completely focused. And I love being in those zones. And when you're at a movie theater, that's very easy to do with a movie. When you're at home, it's harder to do because you're not really doing anything with your body, just your mind, and you're just watching. And, sometimes if I have other things going on or I'm hearing or doing, it's hard to really just sit there and watch a 2-hour movie at home. Sometimes I realized at night when I'm going to sleep, it's easy to watch something because it's more like I'm putting my body in this like rest mode. And then, watching the movie or whatever, because I've gone through so many Chinese, Hong Kong action films that I never knew about. Like, there's this whole line of films in the Line of Duty, awesome movies, cheesy but awesome. Anyway, but yeah, so my weekend was Venom. I didn't play. Did I not play Batman Arkham VR? I meant to do that, and I didn't get to it at all. I sometimes forget the VR. It's like when Gundam came out, the Gundam game, I was excited to play it, put on the VR, play. Batman, excited to play it, put it on to play. But then like now it's a normal game, but it's just a matter of, okay, got some time, I'm going to be physically active, move, rearrange, the furniture. I usually move this chair over to the corner and then get to playing. Totally forgot. Because even in the Venom movie, they have trailers for the Batman VR game. And then what else went on this week? I think because, Halloween's coming, I've been watching the Castlevania anime. Again, I've gone back to that. Really enjoy that. Yeah, so let's see here. I am going to talk about what I've been playing. We'll start there. Let me change the screen here, and I'll adjust this. So yeah, what we're seeing, wrong one. What we're seeing is Dead by Daylight. So yeah, I actually played it. I've had it. I think because it was like free on the Epic Store, and it's also on Game Pass, but like I guess I had it on the Epic Store for a while. So the reason I wanted to play it again is because they have this Castlevania DLC, all right? And Castlevania is just a thing I like. So I was like, okay, they've got a, oh, hey, Ultron, it's good to see you. So I'm thinking like, I've played Dead by Daylight like before, and nothing clicked with me. Because it's not like you're going around, it's not combat, right? It's one of those, what do they call it? Like the asymmetrical, not asymmetrical. There's a name for the type of PvP it is, because you have one character that's something certain, then everyone else against that. And, there's like the Friday the 13th game. The Predator game, I think, is a good example. I love the Predator game, and it has so many mechanics to it, and I think that's why I like it so much, because it's first-person shooter when you're the fire team. First-person shooter, there's all these loadouts and gadgets and things that you could do, so there's so much to it. When I first played Dead by Daylight, there wasn't much going on. You don't fight necessarily the killer. You're just doing things in the world. And so for me, a lot of it was, well, I want to do stuff. So I never really played it. But yeah, because of the Castlevania stuff going on. Asymmetrical. Yeah, I knew it was something like that. Thank you, Autonomous. And because the Castlevania stuff, I was like, you know what, I got to give this a try. And in a way, support, Konami's initiatives. I think I paid like $7.99 and I got Trevor and Dracula, which I thought seemed pretty good. And I don't know. I just feel like $7.99 is really not a lot if you're buying, when it comes to DLC. Anyway, playing it, I realized what it is. And I think it's good for what it is. And I know why it lasts. It's because mechanically it's pretty simple. Just because as the survivor, which I really care for those more than being a killer. I'll try the killer later, but I just love the stress, the intensity of trying to survive. But you just go around and you have to repair generators as a team. And if you repair the generators, then it allows you to repair the switch to open the gate exit. So that's the simple concept. Just while you're doing that, you just have to try to avoid being killed. So as I've been playing, and I was even playing with Autonomous, who's in the chat here. Oh, and JamKillX, good to see you. And so as I'm playing it, I'm realizing, okay, this stuff's pretty simple. It's just when you know the killer's coming, you got to run. And there's mechanics to that too, where as you're running, you can throw things down to make it harder for the killer to reach you, so you can run and hide, because you're technically faster, but it seems the killer can catch up to you, especially if they're using some of whatever their gear is. But the game is really made where, as a survivor, you can run and hide. And you can die really quick and everyone get killed. It's basically, once the killer gets you and knocks you down, he puts you on a hook. Very classic horror film trope there. And then people could try to save you, but that's what the killer is trying to do. And as a survivor, you're not really fighting. Like, that's what I thought would be cool, like, especially from Trevor Belmont. And then there's the killer, and then maybe there's a block button I can dash. But then that kind of changes the point of it. And I think that's reserved for stuff like Predator, so I get it. And so, again, why Dead by Daylight works is because of just how simple the mechanics are, really. I mean, you could jump in and figure out what to do. And because of that, though, because of the shallowness to it, I think that's what keeps me from being like fully invested in it. But because of how kind of quick and fun it is, like you can just do one match, you get a rush of adrenaline, and feel like you just did something, and be like, wow, that was fun, and then just move on and then play it again later. I think that's why the game works, and I think that's a very unique thing that I want to keep in mind when it comes to future game development, like. Because I feel like that's a different type of game that can be made alongside other types of games where, yeah, it's not supposed to be super deep, but it's supposed to more be, because when you're sitting there repairing, you could be sitting there for 4 minutes just holding down the repair button and you're not doing anything, but you could start hearing your heartbeat go faster and louder, and that means a killer's nearby. And that's where that comes from, because I'll sit there being like, man, this is almost done, I'm not hearing a heartbeat, it's almost done, and then it gets near done, and then I start hearing the heartbeat, I'm like, oh man, the killer's nearby. So it does a good job of, that is what the game does. It is like literally what horror movies are known to do, but as a game. So I gotta give it props for that. If we look at some of the achievements, discover hidden guardian, I don't know. I guess there's hidden stuff you can get. And poker matches reveal the killer's aura for a total of 60 seconds in a single trial. I don't know how I did that, but I did that. Full survivor loadout, doesn't seem hard. Raise a character to level 10. So that's the thing. I haven't really played this game ever, so playing, they give you all this currency. So I got my Trevor Belmont to level 23 just with the currency. I mean, I could do more too. It's like, well, I want to kind of save it, you know. Boost any perk to level 3. So yeah, I know. So it's cool. I'm glad I'm playing it. It's definitely a Halloween style game. I'm glad I gave it another chance. And you know, shout out to Konami. If it wasn't for the Castlevania crossover, probably never would have. And then yeah, there's a second entry here because I also have it on Game Pass. So my son downloaded it. He was able to play. I was on the Epic Game Store. We were able to play together. So that's pretty cool. Okay, Fortnite. Yeah, also my son was playing because there's a lot of cool Halloween stuff. There's an event, they've had it before, where it's kind of like a horde mode. So we played that a little bit. Let's see. Okay, so also Castlevania Advanced Collection because I am at the end. Okay, so Circle of the Moon, I think is a very easy Castlevania game, Metroidvania, until the last portion of it. The last portion of it, it is super hard. And so I'm at the final form of Dracula. And it unlocked a memory when I saw that boss because I remember having such a hard time at him. Like, oh my gosh, I remember. So it's gonna be fun to kind of beat it, but I think I'm at a point where, personally, kind of leveled up, and I think when I'm playing games, like Castlevania, it's like I can figure out how to really game the system when it comes to it. Oh, hey, Midnight Hatter. Just finished watching AVGN's Nosferatu review. Yeah, to try it too. Nosferatu, is that a game? I know there's that movie coming out that looks amazing. Let's see. Let me type this in real quick because that would definitely be. Because yeah, it's an SNES game or something. Interesting. Interesting. I'm gonna have to check this out. Interesting. Looks familiar, unless it's just the art style. Prince of Persia style stuff going on. That is really cool. I'm gonna have to check that out. Good call there. Yeah, because the Nosferatu trailer. Oh, that looks good. It looks, like Bram Stoker's, the Francis Ford Coppola. Oh, and that even takes from the older, Dracula films, like the imagery, shadows, and all that stuff. I really like that look, and that's what I like about Castlevania because it mixes the horror with badass action. It's like why I like Evil Dead and all that. I like when you have an action hero that are fighting like what would be typical like horror. Like, think if there was a Freddy Krueger movie, but then there was this action hero that was able to fight Freddy Krueger, They almost did that with Freddy vs. Jason, which, by the way, whatever you think about that movie, the story is a great idea. I just don't think it was executed as well. But the story was great. So for Advanced Collection, near the end of Circle of the Moon, there is this other optional area that I don't even think I might have did in my original run because I don't know. Here's the other weird thing about Circle of the Moon. It has this card system called DSS where you get cards and you use there's 2 rows of like 10 maybe, and you pick what your top and bottom row is and how you mix them will give you special abilities in the game. The thing is, I only have maybe 6 cards or less than that. The drop rate, I was just reading this earlier, the drop rate of the cards is less than 3%, so most people that play through Circle of the Moon don't get a chance to use the card system. So I think that's not cool. I really think they should make it where the first time you fight one of those enemies that drops a card, you really should just get it. And it just, there's the easy enemies you can get it from, but also the bigger enemies that take longer to fight anyway. You should get just so you have that equipment to use. And it's interesting because I was talking about how when I first played Circle of the Moon, I think either I didn't use the card system or I only used the strength. I just had strength. It's one of the early ones you get. And then I was reading online about all the different like powers these card systems have. And I'm like, man, they really messed up the game by making it where you could beat the game and really never get there. And so that's the other thing I was saying. The game is really hard at the back end because it increases in I guess, enemy attack power. You're even with all of the leveling up I've done, and then once you get to the upper 30s, leveling takes a long time, and so, and maybe that's why back in the day I said I didn't like Circle of the Moon, and it's kind of coming back to me, and they needed to fix that. The first, I don't know, 3/4 of the game or more is really good, really well done, and kind of easy maybe. And then the last half is just like it jumps in difficulty like crazy, because it also starts doing the thing where now I think this was normal for the Castle Metroidvanias back then, but the save points were not near the boss room. So it was like, okay, I'm at the save point, but then I have to kind of like get by these enemies that shoot black holes at me and kill me in one shot, or 3 shots maybe. Yeah, it was nuts. All right, moving on real quick. Wrath of Cobra, yeah, the G.I. Joe game. I just want to finish it. It's interesting how much it's like if you're playing Castlevania Symphony of the Night, but you're using a Dance Dance Revolution gamepad or dance pad. I don't know what I'm trying to say. It's like what Wrath of Cobra is trying to be works, and you can see it working. But then as you are doing it, you're like, okay, like this boss I played yesterday was just not good design, and it repeated the same couple moves over and over, and I know how to attack him without getting hit or blocking, but then that just makes it take forever. Because there's a block button in this G.I. Joe game that actually works like you would expect a block button to work. But there's really no identifier in terms of what frames that can block, if you blocked. Sometimes there is what looks to be a reaction to the block, like where there's like this blue shield that pops up over you for a second, but sometimes it doesn't. And I feel like if the block system was a little bit stronger in terms of signaling to the character or to the player when and how to use it, not when, but like you would learn over time, like, oh, I get it if I block. Now, there's times where I've held down the block button for a long time and it works. And there's times where I've hit it, but not as long, but knowing an attack was coming, but it still got me. And I was like, okay, I don't really know what's going on here. There's just, this game needed another year, maybe another $100,000. I don't know how that works. I'm just thinking maybe you pay one person a year to go through and fix up the game. And it's too bad because it's like they know what they're doing and they're being held back. That's what it seems like. There's not many games I play that are like this. Because if it's AAA, usually it's just, what's wrong with it is just kind of the mainstream sort of implementation of systems. This does everything classically like we'd expect, but doesn't fully commit. I don't know. Yeah, especially the whole idea is like, I'm playing on very easy, whatever the easiest difficulty is, and there are just things that will hit you and you can't help it. And if you lose all your lives, you have to start over again. But you can beat a boss, get to the next level, but you don't get any more lives. And then it's like, well, I know I'm going to lose a life. And that could be like, if you master the game, you don't have to worry about it. But for first-time players going through the game for the first time, yeah, and I wonder how long maybe they sat on it, playing it, testing it, tweaking it, because the guys were so good that they tweaked it. And I think that's the issue. So I heard that happened with a Castlevania game or another game where the testers were able to sit there and tweak it for so long, like because they got so good at it that they just made it hard. And I've heard that happen a few times. And then I jumped into some Castlevania Anniversary Collection because I just felt like playing the first Castlevania for a little bit, just to kind of, Halloween time, just to kind of do that. Okay, in Call of Duty, I was playing it Friday, and then I played a little bit, I guess, Saturday. I think it's fatigue, maybe, Call of Duty fatigue, because I was really excited about last year's game, even though it's like I can recognize, like, these games are kind of just dumb fun. Campaigns, not, like, I liked the campaign of Modern Warfare 3 because they decided to completely change it up and make these open zones that there's certain things you can do that, like, every time you play, it might be completely different. Like, there's an achievement I have, and I think, yeah. No, it's not on here. I think it's on Steam. Let me go to my profile just to kind of show you an example. There's this achievement I have here for Call of Duty that 0.5% of players have. And I'm like, well, what's the big deal? And this was cool because this was a maneuver I pulled off in the open world where you have to get somewhere. And so I was able to do it from a different location, and it was a neat little trick. And I guess from that, it gave me an achievement kind of saying, like, it's cool that you used this path to get to where you wanted to. So anyway, what I'm seeing is less than a percentage of players even got this achievement, making me think, okay, people then aren't experiencing what that open world campaign design was doing in Modern Warfare 3. Sure, it might have not been the best, but I love that it was kind of like you can kind of do whatever, and there's all these gadgets that you can make use of in the world. Now, my brother did say, because he's playing the campaign, that I know I always say my brother. I have two brothers, so who knows who I'm really talking about. You said the campaign does open up and have some open levels, but from what I played from the beginning, it brought me back to playing like the original Modern Warfare 2, where it's like you move forward and then guys come, from the corners and you shoot them. And if you move forward too much, you die. But if you don't move forward, they're just going to keep shooting you. So it's like you have to just timely take everyone out, move forward. Timely take everyone out, move forward. And then like when you die, and then if you die for some reason respawn, it's like, oh, it's the same exact thing. I just now know this guy's going to come here so I can shoot him. That's why I prefer the open world design. Because I guess now in first-person shooters, I don't care to then die and then, okay, go through the same motions again. Like, I think that's reserved for classic games. I feel like when you're playing in a full 3D environment, I'm really wanting to be like, okay, what can I do this time? What should... And like I said, my brother said there is an open world level, but I would prefer that to have been from the start. Like, and then yeah, playing the multiplayer. As fun as it seemed like on Friday, I think also I was burnt out on that. I was like, yeah, I played a lot of this last year, so it could be I'm just going to pass on this Call of Duty this year. But what's amazing about that is it was on Game Pass, so I didn't actually have to buy it. It's one of these years where I didn't think if I'm going to buy the Call of Duty or not because it's on Game Pass. It's like, well, I already have Game Pass. There's so many games. I'm like, even the new Sniper Elite that comes out January, that's going to be on Game Pass. It's like Game Pass is always paying for itself throughout the year, even if I'm not primarily playing on Xbox. And then Game Pass games are on PC, obviously, too. So, Call of Duty, not sure what I think. You guys let me know. But yeah, for what I've been playing, that was about it. Let's jump into some news. So first is there happened to be a leak of, and it's still up, so I guess not too big of a deal, and only 3,000 views. Yeah, it's not a big deal. Maybe this is like a coordinated leak or whatever. Let me move this over. See, there's a little bit of sound, but it's really the music from the old one and some sound effects to the new one. But basically, yeah, the new Shinobi, which looks amazing. 2D game, side-scrolling action game. I've always been a fan of the Shinobi games, and I always thought they got better also. Even the 3D one on PS2 I thought was great, and there was actually two of them. I only played one of them. But then there was that DS, I think it was DS, game that was also really good. I love seeing that stuff like that. And that looks like it's, not final. I mean, that could be the art style they're going for, but it looks like it's just cinematics that are not final. But it's cool to see stuff like that. It's funny because as someone that likes to create stuff myself, when I see this, it's like, you know what? You can make something and it doesn't have to be perfect the first time, because then you can add to it, especially with digital content. I could just add to this, add that extra frame, but just seeing like this, it's like, well, the artist is kind of concepting out, wireframing out, whatever you want to call it, what the full animation is going to be. And that sometimes inspires me when I see stuff like that. Because with as basic as this looks, it still looks cool, but it's like, you know what, this is probably the step in the process to then do the full animation. Because, yeah, anyway, it probably looked more akin to this, which this art is great. So it's interesting because it's not like pixel art, but they still make it to be hand-drawn looking art, if that makes sense. I think that's a cool way to go about it. Just to see some more of the combat there and the animation. Yeah, it looks great. So coming out in 2025, and I think there's a lot of other Sega games too that they're working on that are also coming out. And I don't know, it's very interesting what Sega is doing because they're doing their yearly Sonics, and I feel like I didn't play the new Sonic Generations that just came out, but it seemed like they put a lot more production value into it compared to last year's Sonic Superstars. The one before that was Frontier. Before that, they re-released Sonic Colors. So I feel like, Sega, and this is a good idea, they, in a way, it's like they have these regular releases, but they're not always like high production value. And then they have, every once in a while, they'll drop the big game, like this year's Sonic. Even though that was a remaster, but the Shadow stuff looked really good. And the Shinobi, while it's a smaller game, because it's a 2D side-scroller, the art style is really good. So, yeah, Ultron saying Shadow Generation is so good. Yeah, that's what I'm hearing. Oh, Jim Killix, I've been a fan since I was 5. Just put it in my veins now. That's awesome. Yeah, I remember the earliest memories, and it's a place that's just across the street from me right now. This Euless Recreation Center. Back before I think, had a console. So, yeah, maybe I was 5 or 6 at that time, too, and they had the arcade. Yeah, when did that come out, actually? Shinobi Arcade release. 87. So yeah, it came out. I was 4. It was probably by the time I got here. Yeah, I was probably 5 or 6, maybe. Yeah, it's really cool. That's been. And then I guess I didn't really get back into it until like the Sega Genesis started releasing all those Shinobi games, and those to me were like wild. They were hard, but wild. Okay, let's move on. I thought this was funny, or cool actually. Hideo Kojima imagines aliens from centuries later would call his work awesome, or his works. If I make something I'm satisfied with, centuries later aliens may come and say, that's awesome. I think that's what it means to leave something behind. And you know what? That is really cool, because I think it's really cool to aim for that sort of idea where you can make something that might transcend only humans to be able to understand. But who knows what it is like to not be a human and understand something. So, it's crazy to say, but it's still pretty awesome from a creator like him to say something like that, Let's see, remain as objects to be passed down through generations after the creators pass. And that's another cool thing about creating art, is how it's almost like then you are, surpassing time, and you're able to affect people still. Yeah, I think it's pretty neat. Okay, let's jump into just news. Although a leak, and maybe it will come down here, happens to be with the Nintendo Switch 2 apparently released by November 5th, or an announcement. I wouldn't be surprised if Nintendo just said, hey, we're announcing it, you can get it now. That seems like a Nintendo thing to do. They can get away with that. I would almost see, they typically do things in the springtime because it's the initial release to get all the hardcore to buy it. So then by the holidays, they have other releases or stock refresh for the families or whoever to buy the stuff for Christmas. But it could be that Nintendo knows what the demand is going to be, and their plan is to have it out for this holiday. That'd be crazy. But The thing is, I almost feel like that's not a good idea because you want to launch your console with a game that kind of defines that release. And I don't know what they would have, you know, unless they're really just saying you can play all the Zelda games better resolution. Let's see. Sonic Generation surpasses 1 million units. Dead Island 2 reaches 10 million players. Yeah, this first came out on Epic Store, then I guess got released on Steam. This is a fun game. I got about halfway through and stopped, but I remember I enjoyed what I played. Let's see. Anything else interesting? Okay, so this week's Japanese game release is Dragon Age Veilguard from Asia. You know, looks like a Pokemon Dragon Quest thingy, I guess. I don't know. Dragon Age the Veilguard, I probably won't play that unless reviews are like, this is awesome. If you like Dark Souls, you like this. No. I think it's because these are very narrative heavy. I mean, I think they're supposed to be. That's not my thing usually. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, if there's anything else. Fatal Fury Series of the Wolves sounds awesome. I think that's next year. A lot of cool games coming out next year. Nvidia overtakes Apple as world's most valuable company. Supplying computer parts for AI development. Interesting. So is this the change here? At first it was personal devices, and now it's AI computation. Interesting. And I wonder how much of that is people that just kind of don't care about. I mean, I don't know, like getting the latest iPhone every second. I know that I have an Android. This is the 22. It came out. Did it come out in 22 or did those come? Did the numbering do it where it's like the year before? As I forget. I've had the same phone for a while. I know my cohort, Midnight Hatter, he has an old phone, and like it's all I don't need to upgrade. I feel like you fall into a trap. Not calling out anybody, because some people, like I used to, back before they even did the phones like that, I would buy phones all the time because when phones were first, not when they first came out, but before they were iPhones, when they were like getting really popular, I would use whatever that year my contract was, get the phone, unlock it, sell it on eBay for like triple the amount. And I don't even know if I was allowed to do that, to be honest. And then I would use that to buy the phones that I want, like the high-end ones. Usually I would import them. They were usually Nokias. The N95 being my favorite phone. Man, when I had that, that was like the coolest ever. I even have this other one, it's like the 8000 or 8001, and it's the one the transporter used one time. It's like titanium and glass that springs open. I still have that. Used to be a huge phone dude. Oh, GMKillX. Speaking of zombies, I recommend Terminal Montage Left 4 Dead 2 parody if you need to. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll check that out later. Anyway, I guess we'll end here, but yeah, Nvidia is now more valuable than Apple. That's nuts. That is nuts. Oh my gosh, this is funny. Hey, guys, Starfield 2 will be one hell of a game. When the first one did not meet anyone's expectations. Man, there's been some videos, and they're non-grifty. Like, that's what I appreciate. It's non-grifty videos of people critiquing Starfield. Because even for me, I was like, okay, this is going to be a Bethesda game I'm finally going to be able to get into, because obviously it's going to be kind of new. It's going to be more immersive. And no, it just played like a normal Bethesda game, you know. Anyway, I really got to get to work. But this was fun. Guys, glad you joined me for today. Nothing crazy. I think that news about Nvidia is probably the thing I talk about or put in the title. So, Midnight Hatter said, made me sad because I like Bethesda and I like sci-fi. Yeah, the sci-fi part's what had me. Yeah, so. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to head out. I will see you later. Have a good day.